which are just architectural features that can extend into a required setback, the limitations on those, but just to allow more flexibility to get some kind of good architecture on the site.
Can we just, so 10.1C, the interpretation of irregular lot setbacks, maybe talk about how that would be administered. When I read that, it seems it's up to the interpretation of, whoever is there. While I'm fine with that, I think it also opens up staff to having to make tough decisions that people might not want to conform with. So I just think, when I read that, I think it leaves it open to the village having to become a bad guy without a whole lot of backing.
So this is really a fairly standard provision. Somebody's got to make an interpretation when something's irregular. Somebody's got to start the conversation somewhere and try to put that into place. As with any decision made by the zoning administrator, that can then be appealed. So there is a process if the person disagrees with it. We don't see a lot of this because, the intent here is really to work to try to get logical on what they mean. And again, like I said, there is the process to appeal the decision and take that forward, but it's kind of got to start somewhere.
That's helpful.
Under lighting standards, I think that there would maybe be some support from our Conservation Commission to have something that prevents lighting from projecting up into the sky as well, some sort of shield under that provision.
Yeah, dark sky lighting.
Dark sky provisions.
So a kind of a couple things in here. The first is, if you look under the lighting standards, everything's got to be a full cutoff luminaire design, so everything has to go down. So you can't have partial, so lighting has to be directed downward. And again, this is just what's on private property. We don't control the streets. We've also got things in the prohibited lighting, things like searchlights, laser lights, similar high intensity as prohibitions. So without going too far into dark skies, which is a very technical ordinance, this is really starting to address some of the key things about light, trespass, glare, and pollution, just to a way that the staff can actually handle it and make sure that it's working and enforce it. There are far more complex lighting things. It's kind of outside the scope of this. It would have to be a separate study to determine kind of how that works. But I think you've got some of the very key things here on private property, that full cutoff, the prohibition on things like searchlights and laser lights. I think you've got a lot here that really does work with reducing light pollution.
So does luminaire mean that it's not going, I don't know lighting terminology, does that mean that it's not going to shine up?
Yeah, full cutoff means you've got to have something above here, so at this angle, the light has to come from below my pen. So it doesn't shine up into the sky. So it's cut off, somehow shielded and cut off, fully shielded, so it just goes downward.
So, full cutoff luminaire design, okay. Do we need to define luminaire? For
I wonder if we did.
residents?
We can. It's, yeah, I mean, I have definitions for that I can add.
I am curious why 10.3, I've never understood why we've had hedges under this category. And I think it makes sense to remove it. We have landscape regulated under other parts of the code. It seems odd to have it managed in this way, as though it were a fence.
For hedges, I
Yeah.
guess?
The fences, walls, and hedges, 10.3.
Yeah, I mean, we're really treating the fences and wall, I mean, they're accessory structures. We've added in hedges, I think that's a current
what
restriction,
the
and this
code-
is a very important thing, and it's a boundary thing, not really a landscape thing, because it's not a requirement. It's if I want to do hedges, here's my requirements, and I know you had feelings, not to put you on the spot.
Oh, right, I actually don't have feelings towards hedges. I have many
It's
other
okay if you
feelings
do.
and opinions in this fence section as a boots on the ground kind of gal. I also feel that hedges is unusual to incorporate. I do receive, feedback from residents stating, you know, my neighbors' arborvitaes are 7 foot, and that puts us in a weird predicament then where we're like, well, they are kind of acting as a fence, now how are we going to enforce this? And obviously your neighbor wants the 7 foot arborvitaes for a reason. So I understand your statement regarding that. I'm not familiar with it on a broad scale though, or do most communities have hedges, or would you feel that that would be something that could be removed?
Most places don't deal with hedges. The control on hedges is really if it's falling into the site visibility triangle, which
Right.
is a safety issue, that's the main concern.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
We don't have to have it. I mean, people are putting hedges on their lot lines instead of a fence or a wall, it's.
Could it potentially, and I'm with you on this, but could it potentially be that it became the boundary line of a property? It grows to a certain height, starts to encroach on someone else's property, and then there's no control that you have.
Well, that's not the case though, because you can always trim what's on your own property.
You can't grow over somebody's property, they could trim your hedge.
you know, I might be the contrarian here. I mean, every
Yeah.
code I've had in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 or 8 towns I've served in has had hedges and fences. Every single one. And really, it's an outgrowth of the vision clearance triangle. You know, and if you think about the prohibition on front yard fences, you know, it's so that, or corner side yard fences for reverse corner lots. You know, I don't want your 6-foot fence in my front yard, you know, as you go down to a reverse corner lot. And, oh, okay, I'll put up an 8-foot high arborvitae hedge. I mean,
Well-
that's where it comes from.
Okay, so we have something already in the code, in this version of the code that regulates the site triangles, the vision triangles, and should take care of that. I'd still like to see hedges taken out of here, because I'm gonna say, I can't think of a resident who's going to consult the zoning code before they plant a hedge.
Have you ever had to?
And usually,
With hedge?
I've said all my towns have had it, and it's only enforced by complaint. And,
Right.
you know, I remember one
So we don't
where it
want
went
it.
on and on and on.
Okay.
The homeowner corner lot, you know, his hedge was 8 feet tall, and he had to cut it down, and it was terrible.
Yeah, have we had complaints on hedges where we've had to refer to this section?
I have had complaints about hedges, and to be honest, it's a tricky enforcement. It's a bit of a judgment call. Am I sending my inspectors out to measure someone's bushes in their backyard? I mean, is that our best use of time? So I do agree, Arista and I were just speaking, I'm fine with that not being in there. If there's a concern about front yards though, is that covered elsewhere?
I mean, we've got it, I mean, we just say they're in permitted fence locations and they're limited to 6 feet. I mean, are you having issues with hedges in the front?
No, but I thought that, Commissioner Hendricks
Well, I-
mentioned that.
No, I think that if it's a vision triangle issue, like I said,
That's-
we've
We've
handled
addressed
that.
That's
Okay.
universal.
So,
Okay, yeah, I don't have a problem with that being removed from discussion.
I've always
There-
thought it was weird.
There are some examples of hedges being in the front yard though, where a fence wouldn't be allowed on Grand Boulevard, right up to the public sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I haven't complained about them myself, but that's where a fence wouldn't be anyway, these
Right.
hedges. And it's separate from them going on somebody's private property, but they can go leaning over onto the
Mhm.
public sidewalk. right there, too. But this, I don't know how we want to address that.
Well, that's, if it's over the public sidewalk, that's a code enforcement issue already.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
not through the zoning code, it's through, property maintenance, right?
Yeah.
So we've got that handled in another place too.
And that's not my primary concern. My concern is that it's in the front yard, a fence wouldn't be allowed anyway, past the front of the front elevation of the house, or whatever building is there.
So do you feel that they should be regulated, that we should leave it in?
I don't know if it should be in the zoning code or somewhere else.
Unless we just make a specification, regarding, making a statement regarding in the front yards, provided in the front yard, the hedge may not act as a fence over 6 foot high, or something like that, if we wanna make it specific to a front yard.
I mean, you've got, the way that this is written is basically saying, if you're putting a hedge where you would put a fence, you're limited to 6 feet. You can't have a fence in the front yard. So then we said if you have a hedge within 10 feet of the lot line where fencing is prohibited, that is limited to 30 inches, so less than 3 feet in height. So if I want a hedge in my front yard, I'm limited to a 2.5 foot hedge in my front yard, which at that point is just my personal landscaping.
So if there's a hedge in the backyard, is it allowed to be over 6 feet? If there's a fence already allowed to be there?
I mean, honestly, if you're using it as a fence, you're limited to 6 feet. I mean, that's the twist. If I have a tree in my backyard or a hedge in my backyard that grows to 10 feet tall, that's just a hedge in my backyard.
But then we're saying fences are it's only a fence if it's along a lot line. Right?
I'm with you guys to take it out. I don't know why you keep looking at me like that. I just find it to be, I think you're taking care of things that go over somebody's lot line, that go over the right of way, and that go on vision clearance. If you're not having massive issues with hedges, a lot of places now aren't even regulating them because they're just, homeowners are gonna plant them where they're gonna plant them. I mean, that's really what it is at the end of the day. I have a hedge in my front yard. It's far from the lot line, but nonetheless.
I would love one in my front yard, but Deb doesn't want one.
So are we gonna remove hedges from this section?
What are the thoughts of the commission? You guys don't care?
Yeah, I could,
I'm indifferent, yeah.
yeah, I could see it being
Go right ahead.
removed and just knowing that, when enforcement needs to be done, if it's hanging over onto the public walkway or that, you have somewhere that you can point back to say, you're infringing on this and you have to do this, or we're gonna do this, and,
We have that in the IPMC, because we get that
Yeah.
starting about now, or start getting.
I bet.
That is a frequently written up violation regarding encroachment into alleyways or public sidewalks as it currently stands.
Yeah, right away.
So then I would just say, if it's routinely coming up or regularly coming up, I'm sorry, would that, I don't even care about that. Would that mean it should be further back to help you?
I don't think so. I think that, imagine it's any bushes, any overgrowth, anyone with weeds, anything that's
Okay.
coming over the sidewalk. That's what our inspectors are writing up when they're going up and down the alley, the people who don't trim
Okay.
the wildness that grows along fences and it grows into the alley. We call that an encroachment. So I feel like a lot of our encroachments are more weed related
Gotcha.
than bush related.
Okay.
And I am just double checking, these are your current standards.
Right.
These hedge standards, which nobody seems to know about or use. Hate saying that out loud, but.
I won't put it in the.
I have no problem with pulling hedges out either.
Pulling it out?
I just wanted to bring to the attention that there are cases where there are hedges in the front yard close to the front lot line than the front of the house. But again, that would, just one example of hedges being where, place where a fence shouldn't be. Yep. If we're not gonna address every one of them, we can't just slap in there just about the front yard. So, wipe it out.
So we're uprooting the fences out of the code. The
Hedges.
hedges,
Hedges.
not the fences. All right.
We're
Although
adding
I do want a 10-foot.
Removing any fences.
Well, you're removing your current hedge provisions, so just so y'all are clear.
yeah.
I have a question about fences for through lots. Item F, let's see, what they got. It's page 95, I guess. 10.10-5 is the bottom page number. We have oftentimes in the code, we refer to a functional front yard. And it's hard for me to understand what a functional front yard is.
Page 11-2, there's a diagram that spells it out. So, because that's also how we're dealing with accessory structures. I could probably just repeat the diagram, but that is kind of talking about what these functional rear yards are, but it's really designed for the accessory structures. It's essentially saying, they can't extend in front of the front building yard, so that's kind of where your front is and everybody's fronts are. You can't put the fences in front there. When you've got a functional rear yard, trying to give people some ability to enclose it on these very rare through lots, you're lining up with the other ones, and that's your functional rear yard. If you go to 11-1, you'll see a diagram that lays it out. It's the same kind of principle for accessory structures. It's just basically showing it lining up with the front yards on either side.
Chuck, I think this was your comment, but under fences, walls, and formerly hedges, for the permit, do we want a plat and a site plan? Or it's just calling for a diagram? Do we want that more specific?
But I thought that was in the building code, right?
I do require a survey for every
Right.
submittal. Now, obviously, that's just me as a
But-
person directing,
but-
but to mortalize it for future, I definitely require a survey. I'll accept a diagram in conjunction with it.
Okay, I'll comment. I'm not sure it's written in the building code, but it is part of the requirement when you file for a permit. It's really clear on the sheet that you get, that you have to provide a survey, and you can hand, by hand, you can put the fence in. It's nothing, that you have to hire an architect for to do, but it's a requirement. And I think frankly, it's a good requirement. But-
Yeah.
So
So
if
should
we
we
want
say-
to, if it's not memorialized in the building code and we want to, I don't believe it should belong in the zoning code, but, because it's really a permit issue, which is building department related.
Okay.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. All right, well, Jennifer's page, and I'm gonna, because I found a new one. In 10.4 mechanical equipment, number 1, ground mounted equipment. So you got a condensing unit, and it says it's allowed in interior and rear yards, but must be located 5 feet from the lot line. That, because of the small lots we have in Brookfield, that's a non-starter. I just realized it. I hadn't seen it. I apologize for not seeing it. Because I can walk down my block and I will tell you that every condensing unit is in a side yard. And frankly, my side yard is, because I was grandfathered in, it's not 5 feet. And my condensing unit's in the side yard. So, otherwise, I think they're gonna end up in the rear yard. They're gonna be more visible. So I think that has to be addressed somehow. I don't know the solution, but
Hold on one second.
Chairman Grund.
okay.
Two meetings
Have
tonight,
that page,
so.
that's what I'm struggling with.
Thanks for coming.
Oh, one,
No,
two,
you're
three, four.
right.
We
It's
still have a quorum, okay.
missing a page.
All right.
We're missing a page.
What happened to number 5?
So,
Enjoy your meeting.
Currently, I believe our code reads 10 foot from a neighboring house.
It does.
It reads, currently our code right now that we enforce is a condenser unit no more than 10, or within 10 feet of a neighboring house. It
Okay.
does- That's how it currently reads,
So that's different than what this says.
correct.
So I'm okay with that. Because in most cases in Brookfield, you got, well, for lots that have side driveways, you know, my condensing unit is next to the neighbor's driveway. So I'm
Right.
well beyond 10 feet from their house.
It does still come up, in my reviews frequently where I
Mhm.
do have to tell people they have to relocate it because when you have those instances where you don't have side drives, there are people that
Right.
have them existing, so.
Okay. But is the way this is written at 5 feet, is that, I don't think that's, I don't think that meets the reality of the lots that we have in Brookfield. And again, I don't know how to rewrite it, I'm not suggesting how to rewrite it, leave that to the professionals.
so the rear yard, so 5 feet from a lot line in the rear yard doesn't seem to be an issue.
I don't know. I don't think so.
So that's fine. The issue here is sometimes people have it, when your lots are close together, the issue is that, yeah, it's really, neighbors sometimes don't like the air conditioning unit being right under their window next to them. And I understand the reality of
Right.
houses being close and tight together. So moving forward, so obviously what's there is there, so it's
Right.
not, nobody's gotta move it, but the intent here was to get away from measuring something from where it is on your lot into somebody else's lot, because what if they do an addition, all of a sudden you don't comply? It was using the objective standard of saying, this is on my lot, if it's in my interior side, it's gotta be 5 feet from the lot line. Some places make it 3 feet, but the intent there is really to create some space, space that's kind of objective space between you and your neighbor, so your neighbor doesn't get aggravated with it. That's the intent. If we don't wanna allow for this,
No, and I
and
understand
allow
that
them?
completely, but to Michelle's point, she said we gotta be 10 feet from the neighboring house anyway, right? So.
That is correct.
but that's the current code.
Correct.
This would be
code.
replacing that current
Right, so
code.
somebody buys a house in Brookfield and their side yards are 4 feet on one side and 5 feet on the other side, and the house on the 5 feet side is right there, they can't put the condensing unit there because the house is too close, but in the 4 foot side, if they're 10 feet away from the house, this language would prevent them from putting it in that side yard. That's the only point I'm making.
Yeah, it would, and then it also does work in the reverse, if somebody tears down that house and builds it to their 5 foot side yard, now you've put that existing ground mounted mechanical in non-conforming status. You see what I mean?
No,
Because if you're saying it's gotta
I don't
be-
agree with that, because the condensing unit was there first. If that neighbor decides to build,
No, because the condensing unit doesn't control where the house sits. The condensing unit is controlled by the distance between the unit and the house. So you're not gonna make the whole house structure non-conform, the house isn't locating where the
Right.
neighbor's condensing unit is.
oh, no, I misunderstood what you said.
Yeah.
What I thought you said is that if somebody buys a lot and tears down the house,
Right?
and then builds the house within 10 feet of an existing condensing unit,
Right.
you can't make that other house owner move that condensing unit.
You're not gonna make them move it, but it's gonna be non-conforming. So if anything happens, they're gonna have to move it.
Okay,
See what I'm saying? Because the house now moved closer, because the house isn't gonna become non-conforming because of that.
so then I couldn't even replace it.
No, you wouldn't be able to, it's a non-conforming site
non-conforming.
element, yeah.
So you wouldn't be able to get a new
That's-
air conditioner.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Well, I
You'd
think,
have to relocate it to the rear of the property.
So I have an example.
Which is a lot of money.
yes.
Yeah.
And honestly, this discussion, I think, as time has gone on, I think condensing units are quieter than they ever were. When they first became part of zoning ordinances, I think they were a lot more restrictive because they were a lot louder and more of a nuisance to neighboring properties. So, just as a side note, I've noticed that throughout the years, it's coming up as points,
You think they're quieter.
right?
Some neighbors still disagree.
That's true.
That's true, it is true.
Yeah.
I don't wanna solve that problem tonight, so, and then, so, I have another one.
I mean, I just wanna know where we wanna go with this
I think 5
HVAC
feet is
unit
too,
in the
I
side.
think 5 feet is too restrictive. Somebody buys a house, everybody knows in this town, the side yards are problematic. You know, 3, 4, 3.5 feet, and that's what they are. So you buy a house, there's no condensing unit there on the side yard, and then you gotta put it in the backyard. And if it's all concrete back there, then you're tearing up concrete to get the conduit in to get, I mean, it's, I think it's a problem, but
So do you like how it currently reads then, at the 10 foot from a neighbor?
I don't have a
wall?
problem with the 10 feet, so I made,
And I do feel that most comply. Very seldom do I have with the 10-foot rule, I feel that a good majority of our properties comply
Mm-hmm.
with that. I don't have to kick a lot of permits back because of that distance.
all right, so if it's,
How we
if
currently
it's
are
already in the
using it.
building code being 10 feet from
Zoning.
a
It's in the
neighboring
zoning.
property, can we
Zoning
get
code,
rid of
not
it?
building code.
Oh, it's in the zoning code, it'd be
Zoning
10
code.
feet away.
Mhm.
So can we strike this one then?
What about your concern about having to move the condenser because the neighbor put their house too close?
Well, they don't have to move it. It's
No.
only if they're replacing it. If they're
Right.
taking the whole thing out, if they have to,
Right.
they wanna redo it, take the whole thing out then. Otherwise, it just sits there and goes.
But that's, reality is
Yeah.
that air conditioners don't last as long as houses do. I mean, you're gonna have to replace it
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah, I agree with the ladies, because, then, because your conduit's there, your condensate lines are
box.
up to wherever your furnace is, in the basement or up in the attic. And so now, if you have to move it into the rear yard, you're probably double the cost of the condensing unit.
Through no fault of your own.
Right.
I just,
would guess that most people who have someone come out and replace their AC condenser don't get permits.
Well,
I didn't.
well, and I would argue it's a repair, but
Yeah.
people don't agree with my terminology sometimes, but,
But I think that's the reality, who could, correct me if I'm wrong.
I
People
issue
don't get,
many,
we don't
many
get a lot of
HVAC.
permits for water heaters, for air conditioning condensers.
I get many, actually, because,
You guys are really good at this town.
no, they really are. We've got a lot of companies that seem to do a bulk of our work, like ABC, Four Seasons. I
They
do,
never got permits.
they do, I could look up a number for you, a very large amount of permitting. So it is good that we are permitting and absorbing that.
So what it sounds like is the current provision works, the 10 feet from a neighboring structure.
I don't have a problem with that.
And that's the current one. You said that's not presenting
That's what I'm
issues.
currently enforcing, and very
So we
seldom
could
does
just
it come up.
leave it as it is now.
well, I think the issue is
But
with
then
the
is it still
5
con-
feet from the lot line.
Right, is it considered a non-conforming use then?
I mean, it is now, right now. The provision's in place. If it's not 10 feet from the neighboring structure, it's
No,
not
no,
conforming.
I'm talking about the 5 feet. If we get rid of the 5 feet.
The
and you-
5 feet would get replaced by 10 feet from a neighboring structure.
Okay.
There wouldn't be 5 feet anymore. It
All
would
right.
just be the 10 feet.
So then it's conforming, and if you wanted to replace it, you could replace it technically with a permit.
However, it's been enforced now. It sounds like the 10 feet from the house.
I enforce 10 feet from the house when someone's
Right.
removing and replacing. I don't wanna say neighboring structure, I'd like it to be the, primary, like if.
The principal
it's
building.
The principal building.
Yeah, not a garage or anything.
Mhm.
Yeah, from the neighboring principal building.
So then you have had situations where you force someone to move if they had to replace the condenser, and it wasn't 10 feet from the primary structure next door. You have forced them to move it.
We've required them to move it, yes.
So
Is
I,
that common?
I mean, it is not common, but it has come up. I mean, in my former municipality, we had an even stricter rule. So it's definitely something that companies are aware of when I speak with them. They know it, it's a provision when you're applying for a permit, it's something that you mark off the distance from the neighboring property. So it is something that I review each time, but is it, a consistent issue? No, it doesn't come up that much, but it has occasionally.
So I live in a substandard lot, and I have 2 feet from my lot line to my house. So, and there's a deck, so I would have to, right now, there is a condensing unit essentially on the property line. It was there when I purchased it. But I would then have to move that condensing unit about 20 feet away to the middle of my backyard to be in compliance? Is that?
Potentially, yeah, so you could, it is in the code here, I believe they'd be able to seek variation for it, correct?
Yeah.
There are-
But
is
most
there-
air conditioning units or condensing units, excuse me, have to be at least 2 feet from the principal structure as it is. So in your case, you're the type of property that zoning codes and variations are designed to assist.
Is it possible to add a provision for a decibel level? As an
No, you
alternative
don't wanna
I
do
means?
don't
that.
want staff to be in that position.
No.
Okay,
I don't prefer that.
okay.
Circling back, the IRC does not have a requirement for a survey for fences. So our checklist that we use, that was established before I came, does ask for a survey, but that is not immortalized anywhere in either the building code or the zoning code. It is just a policy at this point. So I don't know if that's something that you want
Do we want to add?
added. And I,
Say so.
Yeah, I mean,
I-
it's on the permit form.
that's exactly, it's been a policy. Another item that's on there that is not in a zoning code or, in the building code is requesting a neighbor letter if you remove a fence. There are some, items on there, that's something else that maybe we could,
I haven't seen that in a code before, in a zoning code before, though.
I think that was probably a policy established by a previous building inspector because of neighbor disputes. But yes, I think it would be worthwhile to add a survey to the submittal requirements. I rarely have anyone fight me on it. I'll accept a survey from when the house is built, as long as you haven't bought or sold
Yeah.
land. The foundation of the home hasn't necessarily changed.
Okay.
Oh, so it doesn't have to be a survey done within the last year?
I don't think that's necessary at
Yeah.
all. I'll accept one that looks
Okay.
like the Declaration of Independence. If it has a structure on it and it's got measurements, it's a viable survey, in my opinion,
Okay, good.
if you know how to
good.
read it properly.
All right, should we move on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 10.4, number 2 is the roof mounted equipment. So I understand what you're trying to do here. I'm not sure, number 1, for instance, so for structures 40 feet or more in height, and granted, that's tall. All roof equipment must be set back from the edge of the roof a minimum distance of 1 foot for every 2 feet. Okay, so that one I think is fine. Number 2, I misread it, I apologize. Number 2, there's a little bit of vagary in, the screen. A parapet wall to screen the equipment, or equipment must be housed in solid building material that is architecturally integrated with the structure. Again, that's, the case in point is the barbecue place on 8 Corners. We had commented, and this was well before all of you, the 4 of you at that, we had commented on the sign when we approved the sign, the red pig, and that was when Commissioner Benjamin was still with us, and we suggested to the owner that maybe he could cover his rooftop units. And he said, oh yeah, I could do that if you let me have my pig. Never happened, So you can't now integrate anything with the structure. I mean, you put up some stanchions into the roof structure and you cover it. I mean, you all know what they do, right? You cover it with you know, the least, the most inexpensive material you can that takes care of, that satisfies the code. I think it's a bit vague, but I understand what you're trying to do. So I don't know, and maybe people don't agree with me.
So do you feel, Chuck, that where it says architecturally integrated with the structure, that that's giving the,
Yeah, that's
Where the
suggesting you
concern
bring the parapet wall up, I would say, right?
Right.
Wouldn't you agree, Chris, Todd? I mean, so, you know, if the HVAC unit is 6 feet back, you know, on a 40-foot building, on a 30-foot building, and it's 6 feet back, you're not gonna raise the parapet, you're gonna do a little penthouse, is what you're gonna do. And it has to be open underneath, so that the airflow to the units gets taken care of and all that good stuff, you know? So I think we could just clean that up a little bit. But I like the intent.
could we go as far as to say, if the rooftop units are visible from the street, screening is required? I've seen that in previous codes. And that does give a little judgment call for staff, but at some point, also just saying provide screening. In some of those shorter buildings, the units aren't in sight, and here we're saying you have to provide screening, where if it's not really visible, I feel that that's an extra ask.
The difficulty with saying if it's visible from the street, it becomes very contentious. That's why they've kind of dropped out of where on the street, and then you say, okay, across the street, looking up, this angle, and it gets really
Okay.
convoluted, and people argue. I'm looking right now at, I'm assuming Beach Avenue Barbecue is the big, you don't have multiple pig restaurant signs?
You'd be surprised.
And I could.
We have a cow.
Do you?
No.
Oh, I was about to say, that's pretty cool. And I can see this very big.
Oh, yeah. You can
Further,
see 'em.
it's barbecue, they're giant, it's
They're
for the
big.
smoke. And integrating something there to kind of cover that up. I mean, I could take a look at this again and kind of see if there's something to kind of make it a little less vague.
Okay. Yeah, and in Beach Avenue Barbecue's case, I think they'd have no other choice but to raise the parapet, because those units are so close to the edge of the roof.
They're right
Yes.
on the
They're
edge of
right
the roof
on-
and they're tall.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's awful.
So if you're looking at only the street side, what if there's residences that are, like that particular block, you know, is a pie-shaped at that point?
Yeah,
So what
we're,
if residences can see it?
we're not making a
Yeah.
distinction that it's from the street. It's,
Oh, okay, I
it's
thought
saying
that
it's
was
just
the
gotta be
suggestion.
covered.
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't-
that doesn't really work, from
Okay.
the view from the street. It's too subjective and it's just over time just doesn't work.
Okay.
That's all I got.
So how did we reword that then?
I don't know. I have to focus in on it a little
Okay,
bit longer.
Can we jump back to page 10-4? It must be B8. This is talking about fences, where a fence is along a lot line, there must be a minimum of 12 inches between two, if you've got two fences along lot lines, you have to have 12 inches between those. I think we may have already talked about this, but having a 12-inch separation between two fences, why would we have that? Why would we, I don't believe we allowed two fences back to back.
We are, going to allow them, the way the
This
code
is,
was
yeah,
written.
this is the big argument, internal argument here.
Yes, and the 12 inches is meant for maintenance,
Yeah.
it's basically so, you know, you can get in there and not have there be, you know, noxious weed growth like that.
But is 12 inches enough to get in between two fences?
I've seen 12 inches, I've seen 18 inches, there are different provisions, that was just, a suggestion. We have small lots in town, so I do get this on a weekly basis, on a every other day basis, people want back-to-back fences. They don't want to be limited by, you know, if you and I are neighbors, for example, you've been there 40 years, you've got a chain link fence that you love. I have a dog now. You know, I can't put up a fence along that lot line because you don't wanna take down your fence. And this is also a case of someone putting a pool in, for example. You know, these residents' decisions on their own property are limited currently by what the neighbor's fences are. And, I don't agree with that. I think we should allow back-to-back fences. I think that the concern becomes maintenance, and that's why we put the distance there. I've seen other codes without any distance at all.
Yeah.
My previous municipality had no distance between them. The worry is maintenance. We've got a great property maintenance department that can enforce those things. So, the distance is, you know, up for discussion, but I really do think that we need to allow back-to-back fences for many reasons.
Okay.
Is the 12 inches the current code?
We do not currently allow back-to-back fences, so the 12 inches is added with the provision that now we are going to allow back-to-back fences.
All right, so Michelle, I'm with you. I think we should allow back-to-back fences. 'cause
100%.
Nobody's gonna clean up the 12 inches in between.
I agree.
No, that
Nobody's
would
gonna
be
do it.
very difficult.
So don't
Because the
put a
one neighbor's gonna
distance
say it's your
between
stuff, the other neighbor's gonna say, no, it's your stuff, I ain't cleaning it. And
Right.
who's gonna get in there, like you said, Jennifer?
It's not even enough space to get,
No.
like, you're,
Right. Right.
I am in total agreement that there shouldn't necessarily have to be a distance. The discussion does come up though, and Arista has seen it many locations where people want that maintenance.
Yeah, but if you don't have the requirement,
Mm-hmm.
and they choose to put their fence 12 inches from the lot line, that's their choice.
Right,
I mean,
Right.
yeah, you could rewrite this to say basically, more than one fence is allowed, back-to-back fences are allowed. If there is a separation between the fences, it has to be kept clear. Let the cards fall where they may.
Then how would you properly maintain your fence if they're back to back?
There's issues both ways, I agree.
right. It's a sticky subject, fences, I will tell you. We still would require the nice sides facing out. Should one of those fences come down, that neighbor would still be accepting of the finished side.
Mhm.
So in some cases, you could have two finished side fences facing one another.
well, yeah, in that case, I'm concerned about even allowing the 12 inches in between, because in that case, what could get trapped in there? I mean, you could
Right.
lose a kid in there. I-
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah,
Delete the 12 inches and off we go.
yeah, maybe that's the solution. Although we might want to note this as one of the changes to the overall code, because I have a feeling that some of the board members are going to have some thoughts on that, or
Sure.
feelings on that.
In opposition,
I don't know. I don't know. But
I think
I have a feeling
it is
might
a tricky
be a hot
subject
button
though. I see it a lot, like I said, dogs, pools, you know, I can't put up a pool because you
Sure.
don't want your fence to come down.
I mean,
Or
that's,
I can't get a
they're good
dog
points.
because I need a higher fence.
Or the neighbors hate each other and one fence is falling apart and they wanna
Right,
not look at each other anymore?
yeah, no, they're good points. I just want to make sure that when it gets to the board, they're aware that this is a new provision. And yeah, we need to make sure that we've got ways to maintain it, and we talked about, so not the 12 inches, we're taking the 12 inches out? Okay, all right.
Another concern would just be the stability. If one fence was there, another fence was added, it could undermine the stability of the original fence, right?
we have a 3-foot, foundation requirement for fence posts, so I don't think that that's gonna be a concern.
I would
I
imagine.
think what Todd's talking about though is that if somebody puts a new fence next to an existing fence and they dig right next to the existing fence foundation, you could undermine that foundation.
Sure,
Yeah.
You know, that's where the 12 inches came from. you know.
Now it's coming full circle.
Our inspector, I'm assuming our inspectors go verify property lines when we do fence posts, inspections. And so, most contractors will put them 6 inches off the property line because they got.
It's sound too.
Right.
You guys sound too.
And then you get, Mike, I get 6, you get 6, and 12 inches apart. And that's what the contractors report.
Also,
Must do it
yes,
yourself.
I do think there is, an unstated fact that the majority of contractors come in and they say, oh, we know we have to be 6 inches off the lot. Like, well, you don't actually, but I do think there is a notion in the fencing industry that they do for,
So they don't make a mistake.
practicality and for not having to go back out to move a fence, they do always give themselves a little bit of leeway and pull it off a bit.
Yeah, I expect that there will be more discussion on this one. I don't know what it'll sound like, but I think it's gonna come up again. All right, but we can move on. Yeah, the next one is, C of that section, no, I'm sorry, yeah, C2, talking about non-residential districts, fences in industrial districts, we have them as they must be 75% open. Why? Why is that?
Yeah, it's the, yes, that's the front yard, and front and corner side yard. The intent there was to be able for the industrial districts along there to put up some level of fencing. But the intent was we didn't want them to completely wall off. Open for discussion. I mean, it was meant not to just create these kind of big massive walls of fence that, are,
Sure. Are we softening those fences? Are we requiring any softening of those fences with plantings or anything like that?
no, not for these. This would be their areas of operation, so it's not like the parking lot. If it's a parking lot landscape kicks in. This is really just the front of the building, they're putting that in there, so that's where the fences would be, 75% open.
So if it's an industrial area, I would almost argue that what is it that we want to see if it's their operations area? I'd almost rather see it
I know where you're
opaque.
going. 47th Street, and I don't know if the area I'm talking about is an industrial district, but.
It is, it
Okay,
is.
so there's a trucking company right on 47th. And if they didn't have, I don't know what kind of fence they have now, but I can see their equipment. And so if it's 75% open, you're gonna see their equipment. And it's not good-looking stuff. And it's an industrial district, I get it, so it's probably okay, but I could go either way, I don't.
Yeah, I think I could support it being even completely opaque.
I agree.
So what was the,
So for the front and corner side yards, it says they must be 75% open. I think that, is there consensus that they could be opaque or even should be?
I don't have a problem with that.
okay.
All right, what else have we got, guys? I appreciate that we have performance standards now. I hope they're not gonna be too onerous to enforce. But I appreciate them. And I think that's all I had for this chapter.
So does that, include noisy cars?
What does that mean?
Well, the performance standards, is that, I see noise.
Noise, a noisy car would be a nuisance issue for the village code. This is the
Okay.
operation of a
It's-
use.
Okay. Okay.
So on to 11.
I think so. Oh, there is one comment from Steve that, 10.3 C1E.
What did you say, Jennifer?
10.3 C1E, does the, I guess this is fences again, does the finished side need to face a railroad right of way?
I mean, technically, the way it is the finished side has to face out. Somebody's coming by on a train, I mean, you want it to look nice. You could finish both sides, you always have that option, you know? You could have a fence that looks nice on both sides, nobody's stopping you.
Good point. All right.
Done with 10? On to 11.
Okay, so Article 11 is accessory structures. You see this is divided into two sections. The first is the general standards for accessory structures. Essentially, these are just the main things that apply just to all accessory structures. And then, as you go into 11.2, certain things here are, have special standards attached to them just based on the nature of how they are, whether it be where they locate, their heights. They're subject to everything in 11.1 unless they're specifically modified by this. And that's really Article 11, so any comments?
So the amateur radio equipment, if that is existing, that would be, and it's not within what is listed here, in terms of being in the side yard, when the requirement is that it has to be in the rear yard, and 10 feet from the lot line, and also the height. If they're not in compliance, how does that work?
They're
An
just a
existing-
non-conforming site element, they get to continue.
They get to continue?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's just for the towers. I mean, if
Yeah.
it's mounted on your roof, that's a whole different, that's the different set of standards.
Yeah.
So a garage is considered an accessory structure?
Yes.
Detached garage.
Right. On page 11-1 here, F says that the maximum height of any detached accessory structure is 14 feet, but is that not applicable to a garage? There it is. Oh,
It's an 11.4 at the top. Garages, we gave them 18 feet unless they have an ADU in them.
okay. Is the 18 feet consistent with our current code? What does our current code say?
I believe it's 14 feet to the mean of the roof.
So we just simplified everything to measure to the top and just gave people kind of a little bit of additional room to create, you know, a garage and to have a little bit more freedom with the pitch of the roof. And then there's the separate provision if you're doing an ADU.
Okay, great. All right.
You know me, devil's advocate. If you do a garage with a flat roof, you can build it up to 18 feet. Okay.
Chuck, I always see your architect, wheels spinning in your head when you ask those questions, and I love it.
If
I
people
love
wanted
it.
to do it, and, you know, at the 10-foot mark, they could put some additional structure in and have storage area in that
Absolutely.
portion of the
Yeah.
garage.
But-
I'm just,
But that is me to tap your parapet walls if you put a roof
Wish
top
I
in
had
your
a garage
garage.
like that.
yeah.
This is the thing that's boards up there.
And I will say, this is, that height is something that comes up quite often with our, as you would guess, Chuck, with our garage designs and people in town who just, they want a little bit of storage there. They're not
Yeah.
looking for a big monstrous garage. They're just looking for, you know, with our cars today are a lot bigger also than they previously were.
Sure, 11-4, item J, playground equipment. Is that different from private playground equipment as defined in 9.6? Like, for example, like toddler, slides, sandboxes, things of that
This is
nature?
on your private property, on your house, where you're putting playground equipment, not like anything. In Article 9, we're talking about parks, and that's subject to whatever that is. This is just, I'm a resident and I'm putting a swing set in my yard.
Do we have to allow large satellite dish antennas in residential properties?
Generally, yes, you have to allow them everywhere. It comes under the Telecommunications Act. It's kind of covered under there. As you all have probably noticed, these are getting significantly smaller, and really residences having these large ones, unless you're for some reason running a news station out of your basement, you're not gonna be putting those up. But, yeah, there's a lot of federal protections we just have to live with.
And then sheds and storage structures, we're permitting them only in the rear yard, not the side yards? Even in corner lots or irregular lots or
Or double lots.
double
or
lots,
one and a
yes,
half
yeah,
lots.
absolutely.
There's a lot of 1.5 lots and double lots in the village.
That's up to you, if you want to allow them. The intent was kind of to move them out of view, put them in the rear yard where kind of people access them and use them. If there's a desire to allow them in the sides, but maybe not within the required setbacks, but if you've got a larger yard, you can have it in that additional yard area, that's fine too. It's really a policy decision of the group.
I think I'd prefer that.
Yep.
Otherwise I
agree.
have to, well, okay. I might have to move something.
Do you care?
I'm not a fan of that, but
No?
I'll go either way. Because I don't like seeing things from the street. You get an aluminum shed, you buy it at Menards, and you put it in your side yard, and you're as close to the front lot line as you can, which is allowed, and you drive down the street and that's what you see. I think the intent, again, was to put it in the rear yard, so it's less visible from the street. But makes no difference to me.
That was the intent.
Yeah.
Well, what if there's no functional rear yard? What if we've got small lots, and if you've got a double lot?
Then you ask for a variance. I don't know. Like I said, it's not a game breaker for me. If the consensus is in the side yard,
All right, what's the consensus?
Be in the side yard.
All right, I think I don't get a vote.
There's a lot less, there's a lot more unusable side yards than unusable rear yards.
yeah, I suspect
There are
there
cases where.
there might be
that's
10 or 20 houses in
There's
Brookfield.
sheds in the side yard on a wide lot.
Yeah, that you could potentially put a shed in the side yard. I can't imagine there's many more than that. So I think it's probably okay. Yeah.
All right, well, can we take it out then?
It's fine with me.
So what are we doing?
We're taking out the
She wants it allowed
restriction.
in the side yard.
So they're allowed in the interior side and the corner side,
Just
not in the required
setback.
setback, but if you got a wider yard, then
Right.
you can have it. Okay, that's what they said. Do you want it in corner side as
Corner
well,
side?
along the street?
I'm trying to picture what that looks like.
Not gonna look good.
Yeah, probably not.
No, if we're not allowing a fence in the corner side yard, then yeah, probably not.
So only rear and interior side. Okay.
For solar panel, I don't know that I see it happening, but are we allowing freestanding systems in residential districts?
The way this is written, yes, and they're restricted, they have to be in the rear yard, 10 feet from the lot line, and they can't get any taller than 6 feet. These are becoming more popular. People are sticking them in their backyards to use them to run other parts, other stuff they got going on in the yard, so it's something you're starting to see. Once they're in the rear, once they're 10 feet away and 6 feet tall, you're really not seeing that, especially from the street. They're not that obtrusive.
Okay. I appreciate then that we've got a requirement that it can't glare onto your neighbor's property. That's what I've got.
Anything else on 11? All right, now what do we want to do?
We're skipping 12.
Oh, good.
We're gonna skip, 12 will come at the very, very end, because
Good.
there's a philosophical debate that needs to happen.
Absolutely.
So we could skip over that and jump over, just start at 13 and kind of keep working our
All
way.
right, we got 7:30. I suggested we get as far as we can by 8 o'clock. Does that sound all right?
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, and to start, I have no comments on Article 13.
Okay.
Let me find 13.
I'm leaving
hey,
that to,
13's
I'm leaving that to the
landscape.
landscape experts.
I'll
So
start.
if we're concerned about the shed issue, being able to see it from the street, can we require landscaping to hide that shed from the street? Or again, do we have the same issue as with the?
I don't know that I would get into requiring single family to start doing specific landscape. That tends to be a very sensitive subject. They want their permissions for fences, how they're going to do them, they want to plant what they want to plant. Landscape should be focused more on intensive things.
I think from an enforcement angle, it's very challenging as well.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
I don't
you're
know-
gonna
I
get
don't
yelled
know
at
how-
a whole
I don't know how I would, I don't know how I would handle, that.
Appreciate the things that were added in here for clarification already. Just trying to see if there's anything that wasn't incorporated that I'm concerned about.
On 13-2, item, what is it, G, general landscape requirements, says all portions of a lot not covered by structures or paved surfaces must be landscaped with trees, right? Does that include just stones, for example? It just seems kind of over-regulated a little bit to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just intended to be that everything that's not your driveways, your patios, your sidewalks, your house, your other structures, trees, grass, if you wanna do grass, flowers, shrubs. If you use a little bit of rocks and hardscaping, nobody's coming after you for that, you know, it's really just intended not to have it be dirt. Just, you have something to enforce if somebody's just got a dirt yard. You don't have to have it, but places find it just, kind of a little bit easier to handle properties that could potentially become problematic.
Is there a way to simplify it and just say like vegetation or ground cover or?
Oh, that's what it is,
Yeah.
trees, shrubs, live ground cover,
I'm
other
missing
plantings.
that page.
Oh, what is it? You know, cause you have an old copy.
Okay, then that's
It
fine,
should be
so now-
November 2025. Also, you're too far ahead.
Well, now I am because I was looking for where you were.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's on there.
I've
Yeah,
seen
it's
some
right here.
asphalt
That's
or
commercial.
concrete or whole front yard.
It is G now,
Sure.
cause something got
And
added.
I've seen, I know someone bought a house, and snow melted, the entire front yard was crap.
3.2A, that invasive species are prohibited.
Under perimeter parking lot landscape, 13.2, number 4 there under A. I'm concerned about allowing it to be reduced to 3 feet from 5. If you think about what that functionally is, you have a parking lot with its own foundation. I mean, it's spills over into the gravel or the planting area there. Then you've got a sidewalk with its own underlayment, foundation, whatever it is. And functionally, what you end up with is you're sort of losing 6 inches on either side. You end up with a 2-foot planting space. I'm concerned especially near a street or near a sidewalk where things are gonna be salted, that's not gonna be enough space for something to survive. I do see that we took out shrubs, and maybe that's the way it needs to be, that the only thing that's gonna survive there, ornamental grass is wood, so maybe that's enough space.
Yeah, it's really an alternative. We're letting you go smaller, but we're making you do a pedestrian wall, which is obviously more expensive. Well, it can be. I mean, landscape can be expensive as well, so that's really kind of the trade-off. And it's a minimum, so there's nothing, I mean, you gotta keep these things, if you're planting them, you gotta keep them growing, so, you're
Yeah,
subject
okay.
to, I mean, everything in here is a minimum, and the thing is, you have to keep it maintained, so be responsible.
Nobody has anything else in this one? I may need to come back to this one another day.
I got it, I found it. Yeah, I know.
I think we can move on for now.
Anything else on 13?
Satisfactory to me.
All right. 14.
14, fun with signs. So, this is really a complete modernization of the sign code, tying the types of signs, making sure we've got the full range of signs that are out there, tying them into the districts that would have them, which ones are appropriate for those, and really making sure in particular that we're being as clearly content neutral as possible, because we cannot regulate content of signs at all. So, a couple big updates here, but that's really making it clear what are prohibited, what require a permit, and which are exempt from a permit. And billboards are prohibited, so we don't have to have any discussion on that. They're just prohibited, it's very clear. Can't have them, not changing that.
Do we have one on Ogden Avenue?
Yes.
It is a mystery, I don't have the answer.
Yes, we do have
We
one
do,
on Ogden
yes.
Avenue. So what does that mean if they're prohibited? Are they grandfathered, is it grandfathered in? It is, okay.
It's actually sort of a double billboard,
Yes, it is, you're right.
2 panels.
That's right. So that if they have to repair it, would they
Define
ever be,
repair.
would they be able to replace it, let's say a storm? So then if a storm came along,
How does then
then it could
the
be gone for good. Okay.
the 50%.
Yeah, so non-conforming sign, damaged or destroyed to 50% or more of its value prior to the damage. If it's more than that, it can't be restored, it has to be conforming. And that applies to any sign.
Okay.
But there's some mystery surrounding that one, so, which I don't understand. I don't know how it got there.
Nobody knows how long it's been there, or?
It's been there forever.
Since 1893.
Basically. It might be wood underneath, the frame might not. So, any comments on signs?
All right, I have a couple. In 14.6, which is the signs exempt from permit, items D and F don't specifically say the number of signs. I'm not suggesting that's an issue, but, so D, culturally or historically significant sites. So, you know, we have one right here. They could put up as many signs as they want.
3 says that it's limited to 1 per street frontage.
Oh, I missed that. Great. And F?
The maximum total area is 16 square feet, so we're being very sensitive here. We're not limiting the number. We're just saying in aggregate, 16 square feet. And if it's in the window, it's subject to window signs.
Okay.
And have we changed anything about the number of signs in general? I know we talked about this last time when we were doing the first look through. There was no limit on how many signs you could have on a building.
Correct. So it's basically set up so that the different sign types are allowed, you know, predominantly they're dealing with different aspects of it. So you could have a wall sign and an awning sign, and if you have a parking lot, you may have a freestanding sign. If you try to put any kind of limit on the number, like a square footage, like X amount of square footage on a lot, you end up with signs that are out of proportion. You end up with weird ones that kind of use whatever little bit is left over. What we've talked about here is really trying to make things proportional to kind of the way buildings are in each of these. So you'll see special regulations for wall signs being proportional, projecting signs being limited in size when they're being used, because they're all addressing things in different angles. So, you know, a projecting sign is getting people as they walk down the street. The wall sign is something you're kind of looking on. A window sign is you're looking there. It's a very common way to address signs that most places do. Now they've moved away from that maximum sign area or maximum number of signs, and it's not creating sign clutter on a site. It's just, it's all kind of tying together to work for a theme for the building, to just really kind of make it address how you have to based on where you're sitting. Because the number of saying, you can only have 3 signs, it's arbitrary. You're basically, you're just creating an arbitrary number or an arbitrary square footage, rather than kind of looking at the types of signs that would be appropriate. And many businesses, you know, just walk outside, they've got a wall sign, they got a projecting sign, they got an awning sign, and it looks great, you know. Try to control the standards of how these are constructed, so like no backlit awnings, some controls over the materials that you can do, encouragement for channel letters, so that's kind of what gets built into this.
Oh, okay, so to that point, and that was my only other comment on wall signs, in particular, you have a total limit of 40 square feet. On H number 4 and 5. So 4 says, it gives you the parameters for how many square feet, but in no case more than 40 square feet.
No, in no case less than 40.
Less than 40, okay.
Right, so you're getting a minimum, you're getting 1 square foot per linear foot, but in any case, you're getting 40 square feet.
Right, okay. So then 5, the number of individual wall signs on a facade is not limited, so you could have 10 4 square foot signs.
Yes.
And it's not a good thing in my mind, but if that's what everybody agrees to.
It's more common than you think. Like, you think of Jewel. I mean, that's what Jewel sign is. There's at least 4 or 5 separate
Yep.
signs.
Yep. It's more an awareness issue than anything else, that's all.
I suspect Commissioner Evans might have thoughts on this when
Of course you would.
he's back. But does anyone have any concerns about that? It is a big change. Right.
We can always, next
Yeah.
time we meet, we can see if he has an opinion and we can get it.
Go from there.
A what?
Minimum size.
No, there's no minimum height. I will tell you the one thing to do in here, which will be the biggest improvement that you've got here, this prohibits pole signs. We've mentioned that before.
Thank you.
So if you want things to look good, that is one of the key ways. Congratulations to you, at least making it this far with the prohibition. We try all the time. We never succeed on the consultant side of things, but pole signs they exist. So,
Can I digress then and say, is the Dunkin' Donuts, is that a new pole sign? Does anybody know? It looked new to me. It might have been. No, it's still up pretty high.
No, but I think it was
And-
higher.
And maybe
Brought it down.
I'd,
Yeah.
okay. Is that a relatively new sign? Does anybody know?
I do not know, I'm
No.
not familiar with it, so it may be more than 2 years old.
Okay, it could be, and I might be wrong, so, all right, sorry.
is that this?
When did Dunkin' change their logo? Cause that's been pretty recent, I think,
Yeah.
hasn't it?
But I think even the current code
Ooh.
limits the height of pole signs, and that one's up there pretty high.
Just changing the panels.
And okay.
Okay.
We're helping Michelle with code enforcement. To Google Earth.
But even if you change the panel out, and again, I don't wanna digress, if it's too high, it's a current non-conforming sign.
Correct.
So if they change the panel out, they gotta lower the sign.
No, they
no.
can
You
change,
do a face change, correct?
Face
yeah,
change
you
they
could do a
without.
face change.
That's probably what they did then. Okay, done.
Okay, so there's your Dunkin'. It says 4086 Maple.
I mean, that was there when I came in. I haven't been here in years, so.
It has been there, they changed the face, it's actually been there since, I'm already at 2014. Between 2011 and 2014, the Dunkin' Donuts changed to that tall sign.
All right, so I'm,
They just changed the face to the new logo of it
And I
being
thought they put a
Dunkin',
new
not
sign and they
Dunkin'
didn't,
Donuts.
so. All good.
On 14-4, 14.6 signs exempt from permit, item A2. Says each tenant in a multi-tenant development can have a A-frame sign. And then we say they gotta be spaced 15 feet apart. What happens if a tenant is less than 15 feet apart?
Then they can't have a sign.
So they gotta
First guy
fight it
out.
over?
Yeah, I mean, the first guy out gets it. I mean, the intent there is to keep a distance so that people can walk around them. But really, honestly, that is what it is. First guy out, if they can't get within 15, if they can't keep that 15-foot separation. They're movable signs, so.
Yeah.
For the drive-through signs, is there a way to make sure that they're not audible at adjacent properties?
Yeah, I think we did address that. We can't do decibels, but we did say audio components. It's on page 14-2. For drive-through signs, the audio component is limited to communication between the customer and the service window. We really can't do anything with decibels. We can say we can try to keep it not audible, but I don't want to put a standard that's super subjective into there. But I mean, just limiting it between that at least gives you something to go on. To say it's too loud, you're not really just talking, I mean, it's excessive from what it is.
gas station pump video screens are allowed. That's also under audio component.
Yeah, we've allowed them under audio components. I mean, you can choose to not allow them. There's nothing that requires you to have them. They've just become so common in installation that it's kind of just accepting where they've been kind of going.
I could, to your point, Karen, I think we have to allow it because everything's touchscreen now, right? So you put your card on the screen, and so there's that component. But then there's also the ones, like in truck stops, where the audio is really loud.
I'm talking about the video.
Okay.
When you go pull into a gas
Right.
station and the pump has whatever,
Oh,
it's, I find it obnoxious, but,
okay.
you know, some kind of video is
So
going.
that's different from the
It could be
touchscreen
a
that you
commercial-
use
Oh,
to
yeah,
actually,
yeah.
okay.
I mean,
I
that
know
I-
what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah,
And they put their advertisements on there. and-
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
but that's just my personal feeling.
We're allowing projecting signs on page 1416 to be a maximum of 6 feet from the facade. I'm not an architect. Is that insane? To me, that sounds insane.
For which
That
one are
sounds
you talking about?
Huge. Projecting signs, 14-16, at the D, 9D, it says, this type of projecting sign may project a maximum of 6 feet from the facade. Maybe I'm just having a hard time picturing that, but that seems,
Yeah, well, it's a
That seems
very,
large.
it's very specific. It's only really in the downtown that we're allowing for this. So you can see that second, the downtown district alternative. They're big signs for buildings. They've got to be over 4 or more stories in height. You've got a much bigger vertical clearance of 13 feet. So they're big signs. We're trying to work with a proportion here. And there may be like structural supports too that are going to 6 feet. We can reduce that if that seems big, but it's really meant to give flexibility for these really neat kind of signs that are only on multi-story buildings.
okay, I'm gonna,
I
It's
think
a-
it's.
I'm gonna
o-
make it a
I-
question
I
for
think
the
it's okay
architects.
because also in that it says not only maximum of 6 feet from the facade, but must maintain a minimum vertical clearance of 13 feet. So this sign's pretty high up there.
okay.
So I think to be that high up there and 6 feet, you know, it's a 4x8 sheet of plywood, you know. So 4x6 sheet of plywood, it's, if you look at it that way, it's really, I don't think it's as big as maybe you're
Okay.
imagining. But
So, signs are bigger than you think they are when
Yeah.
you walk up to them.
Yeah.
You really, it's a perception thing. They
Okay.
don't seem that big, but they are actually, when you're looking at them, they're that big. And that one also has controls of a full maximum sign area. It's gotta be, the vertical's gotta be a minimum of 4 times the horizontal. So there's standards that kind of start pushing it in and making it that kind of really cool. Cause you'd see it on like, multifamily buildings have them now when they have new names, like the Admiral or the Odyssey. They all have very strange names now. No offense to architects here who may have named something the Admiral or the Odyssey. I apologize.
The Admiral Theater.
let's leave that one alone. Any other comments on signage?
So, yeah, I do.
Go ahead, sir.
14-15, F marquees, so item 6. It says, there's a line that says below the second floor windowsill.
Sorry, where you at?
14, oh, yeah, 14-15. F6.
Okay,
So,
got it.
which is a strange requirement to me, and our marquee example doesn't even show a window.
Well, yeah, at this point, really, in the example, it's really this is essentially a 1-story building, but it would be, if you had something that had multiple stories, it would need to be below that second floor windowsill.
Should we provide example of showing that. I'm not even sure if it's that important, that it can't be above the windowsill. That's more of a traditional architecture, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
More than likely than not, this type of building, at least today, probably wouldn't have a windowsill on the second floor.
What? Okay. So did we want to change the image or change the standard?
I think changing the text portion would be my preference. I think we would probably provide a height above something. The height above the sign, for example, as opposed to something that's kind of arbitrary. The windowsill may or may not be there.
Okay, well, we could just take that out. I mean, because we're saying it's got to be at least 7 feet above. There's got to be a minimum of 7 feet of clearance, so we could just take out the,
Right below the second floor windowsill.
Yeah.
yeah, that's fine.
And then item 5, right above there, if a building has multiple entrances, can each marquee get signage?
Good, that's a good catch. It should be over the primary building entrance. Really each building should only have one marquee. You don't want multiple marquees. That takes away from from a marquee. Makes the marquee less marquee. Yeah.
We okay with 7 feet for the clearance?
Feels
Low.
really low.
It's-
I've seen between 7 and 8. I'm fine going to 8.
Well, I'm, standard building code, no habitable rooms can be less than 7.6. So I'm just thinking 7 feet, that's pretty,
So let's make it 8.
That crossed my
Eight's
mind
better,
as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I know some people who, that would knock their hat off.
mm-hmm. Any other signage comments? We can always come back. I'm gonna suggest we keep going just to get through 15, because I don't think there's gonna be any comments.
15? You think we could do it?
Yeah. I have no comments.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Under 15.2, items F and G, is that true that the final decisions are by the Planning and Zoning Commission?
On zoning appeals?
Yeah. Are
Yeah,
those
shouldn't it be?
truly up to the
Yeah.
village trustees?
For appeals.
For appeals, yeah.
I can only think of one appeal that's ever come before us. And I don't believe that it went to the board afterwards.
Yeah, zoning appeals are typically to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
We have more power than.
Or when we used to have a separate zoning board of appeals from the planning commission.
Hmm.
But you are right on G. G should be a recommendation, and the board does make the historic sign
So just change decisions to recommendations?
recommendations,
Yeah.
and then we'll add F, that the village board approves the historic sign designations.
Good catch, Todd.
appreciate the changes that, the updates to this.
All right, gets us right to 8 o'clock.
Well done.
Again, I appreciate everybody's great review of everything up to this point, so. With that said, I'll entertain a motion to close the planning and zoning meeting of March 19th at 8 o'clock with a roll call vote.
So moved.
Second?
Commissioner Evans is absent. Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Swoboda,
Aye.
Commissioner Stryker, aye. Commissioner Grund,
Aye.
Motion carries.
Libby or Scott, do you have any updates? Sorry, I missed that. Great, then I didn't miss it.
update is we are looking for April to bring, the application for the plan development for the triangle. We have to again on Tuesday. So fingers crossed on that. It might not be on the 23rd, I'm just giving you a heads up on it. We're pushing it to the 23rd, a regularly scheduled meeting.
So, next Thursday, April 15th, 3 o'clock. That should be on my campus, right?
And you already saw my note, I will not be here, so,
So we had talked about,
right.
do the public hearing of the planning and zoning commission for 3415 Maple. And then if there's time after that public hearing. we
I
meet
saw
the
that,
zoning
I
commission
saw that in the note.
and
Yeah, and we could do some more of this. Yeah,
not work on it.
well, I think I sent my comments through 6, I don't know, whatever it was. I'll keep looking if I have any more as we get further in. As long as you don't talk about parking when I'm not here.
Oh, boy, okay. Do we have a date where NAF construction might be coming back, just to let the commissioners know about the two, we have 2 people who are interested in the theater building property, and one presented at the last board meeting. Probably saw the article. Do we know when the other?
The app is coming on Monday to
Okay.
the board, and then it'll depend on who's chosen.
Yeah. So if you're interested in that, Monday would
Yeah,
be
Monday.
the day to come and hear.
Yeah, they're the only ones for, no, they're the first ones for committee of the whole at 7.
Great.
And will that come before us or no?
If they're chosen and they
Yeah.
need variances, they
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
But we're not quite there because there's the 2 developers, so the board has to pick which of the developers
Okay.
to go through, and then we need to do some additional gap analysis and financials before it'll get to you.
Okay,
But it will eventually.
okay.
All right, thank you all. Well, we'll leave a great new zoning code for the next